but something's always coming up to try to get you out of place. And the thing is, you start, and I learned this in my marriage, but I learned this in my life. I start with what God told me first. So once I know what God told me, whatever else happens, I know what God told me. So God tells me, I'm in North New Jersey, in the New Jersey area, and I'm pursuing basketball, and some of you may have heard this story before, but I was at least where I thought I needed to be to get you're always trying to get a look. So, and I started to live for God. So now I'm going to church, at least here and there from time to time, right? So my sister kept trying to get me to come to Columbus, Ohio. And at the time, I was like, well, you go to church and you're bored. So I know I'm going to be bored. I'm not going there. And they probably didn't play basketball in Ohio. That's just that warped mentality in the East Coast. I figure we don't have people to play basketball, which is not true. So then I go to church, because now I'm trying to establish this relationship with God. And a woman, Iona Locke, I think she's a bishop now, but she's visiting this church and she teaches on, I believe it's Joshua 7, but it says, leave from where you are, seek the ark, and go after it. Ark represents God and the presence of God. So when she said it, I went to church that day saying, Lord, tell me, show me if I'm supposed to stay in New Jersey or go to Columbus, Ohio. So when she said it, leave from where you are, seek the ark, and go after it. So I said, God, what are you saying? He says, I see you in Columbus. Now that scared me, because I was like, I'm going to have to start all over? Like, don't nobody know me there? I don't have no job there? I said, this is not good. But everything in me was telling me is what God was saying. So I left. No matter what happened, whatever job struggle, whatever car struggle, I stayed on what God told me. So then I said, 91, a year later, I meet my wife. And God told me, I won't get into those stories, we met supernaturally at the altar. And so, now mind you, I had lived with somebody for 6 years and then married. So, and because I grew up as a foster child, I didn't want to try marriage. If I married, I wanted it to be forever. So that means I took people through a lot of craziness. And then I meet my wife, and God says, that's your wife, in the church that day. I was like, okay, this is going to be different. So we married 5 months after engaged her 5 months after we met, and we got married 5 months after that, so 10 months total. So we've been married 21 years. And the interesting thing is, the first 2.5 years, because we didn't have a premarital courtship, y'all all had. So we had it in the marriage, if that counts. So we was going at it. But no matter how it looked, I never questioned if I was supposed to be with her. Why? Because God said that's my wife. Now, if it was my emotions, my feelings, if it was circumstances, then it would have just been easy to fade out. But God said, that's my wife. So every time I made a decision, I just went with what God said. God said, come to Charlotte. The first service, we had people coming from Ohio and stuff like that. So we had, I think we had no members. We may have one, but they weren't in town. They called in and said, the Lord told me to be a member of your church. So we had 46 people at the service, the first service. The next service, we had 8 people. Next service, I think we had 2. That was you and your daughter. And y'all was late, right? So how that plays out is you stack up the chairs, because we stack up the chairs every week. So had the camera ready, had the sound, everything ready. So I had already taught the 9:15, was the 8 o'clock back then. But Terrence hadn't come along yet, so I was by myself. So I would be in there doing like retakes, teaching the training class nobody in there. So it's kind of a different pool if nobody's in there, just in case y'all was wondering. So then there's 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock service. So you're looking out the door. Then we was in a location that if you kept on riding, you could drive by it. So, I step outside, act like I was looking at something, just in case somebody was driving by, just maybe they see me. Like, you looking for the church? It's over here. Just because you want to know. If you're not looking for the church, you ever thought about going to a church? Just one right here you go to. But I'm just letting you know, it was so much uncertainty. But God said, start the church. And what helped me was, I remember going back to Capitol, how can I put this? A leader in my life had told me to make a decision with the Bible study I was doing. It was packed. And when I made the decision that I was instructed to do, the Bible study went from packed to just a few people. Then the next generation was that gentleman right there. They went. So one day I called him up. No, I think you called me. He says, you come into the Bible study? I'm the only one here. I said, well, I'll be there in 5 minutes. But when I got there, he was like, I didn't think you was coming. Said 1,000, I can't change. You know, and eventually it picked back up and it started to grow again. So when we started the church, the same philosophy. See, because God sent me to a place. So regardless of how it looks, I can't change nothing. Regardless, we had $1,625 to start the church. Then, and we helped somebody with their rent, helped somebody with their glasses, somebody with their groceries, with that $1,625 to start everything. Then God says, I need you to start your first service 10 months after you started the church. Then we left the other church. I said 10 months. This is June. August? 2 months from now? Again, a lot less than $1,600. We ain't got no building. It's like, okay. So and then my wife has the nerve to call that day. Babe, when you think we're going to have our first Sunday service? See, I wasn't going to say what God said. You know, I was going to try to work on it. And then when it happens, I'll be like, boom, God told me that. But she asked me, and we're transparent, so I had to tell her what God told me. Now I'm putting myself on the line again. Well, babe, God said we was going to have service in August. And then I wasn't on Facebook at the time, but my wife was. She was like, oh, cool, so you want me to put it on Facebook, so everybody be ready to come? I said, babe, we don't even have a building yet. Well, since we're believing God, people going to need to know in advance. I was like, babe, you messing. I said, ain't nobody going to want to come to the first service. We only got one member. Maybe after about 90 days, I'm just being real with y'all. I was like, 120 days or so after we build up the membership. But who wants to come see one member? She's like, people going to want to come. I was like, I don't think nobody going to want to come to the first. Well, she was right, of course. All types of people wanted to come. And so I said that to say, I forgot to tell y'all, somebody sent us a check out of nowhere. Never gave us nothing ever in our life for $10,000. That's how we started that's how we got the first location. So that covered our lease for the whole year. But I didn't even know we had no money when God said that. And we didn't have a building. Then the guy said, oh, didn't you call me before about a church? The church that was in here moved out. I said, so when can we take over? He said, you can do it today if you want to. All we had to do was bring chairs and a podium. They had renovated the place. They had put $100,000. It was a dance studio. Renovated the place. So it had a sound system in it already, soundboard. Yeah, all we needed was the chairs and the podium. But that got old after a while. I guess we're supposed to talk about this today. Because every Saturday we had to set up the chairs. So they had parties twice a week for their dancers, celebrating whatever. So sometimes they would be there. I used to be sitting out in the parking lot. They used to be there 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Our first service is 8. Sometimes I would get 1 hour sleep before the first service. And so one day I was driving. I said, Lord, this it, huh? That's how we rolling. Came out to Charlotte, stacking up these chairs. And that night, I did not feel like stacking up those chairs. And my wife had hurt her ankle, so she couldn't help. I really just didn't. Transparently, I was driving. I was like, Lord, seriously? But if I didn't stack up the chairs, people wouldn't have no place to sit. So I did it. And I started thinking about we were taking people out to eat every Sunday. Remember that, Cynthia? So whoever showed up. And so I started thinking about if we wasn't taking those people out to eat, I could have saved that money up for a down payment. And the Lord said, you keep taking care of the people, I'll take care of the church. So the next Sunday I go, what? Whoever comes, we're going to take them out to eat. Just so happened about 25, 26 people decided they want to, because sometimes everybody would come, but they didn't want to eat, they left. But we had about 25, 26. I know we had 2 tables at the all-you-can-eat place. I was like, wow. This is, so we had to take care of them. And so this is on Sunday, right? Monday, I go to pick my wife up from work, go to the post office box. There's a check in our post office box for $60,000. That's how we got the other building. I don't know if I ever told y'all that. I'm keeping some stuff. All right. We don't have the $60,000 right now. We weren't paying the lease, and we had to buy the sound. What we did over here, carpet and all that, so we had to do that over there too. Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, since you got 60, yo, can I get a couple hundred? But that's how we moved into the second building. So just to, I got more story, but I'm not gonna give you all of it today. I just at least give you that, just to let you know God is faithful. When you're in place, when we were driving to Charlotte, we thought we were going to leave with a fanfare and a lot of support and a lot of resources. We didn't think we would be coming to Charlotte with $1,625. You know, the last minute thing shifted for whatever reason. And so we were driving. I said, Lord, this is not how I planned. After I worked at a ministry for 12 years, we went there for 18 years. So I was like, Lord, after 18 years, I didn't plan to be driving to Charlotte with $1,625 going to an apartment. I hadn't lived in an apartment in 17 years. So I was like, this is not how I planned. The Lord said, what I have for you, you'll definitely get. Just keep on driving. And God has been more beyond faithful. And because that's what he does when you're in the right place. But see, if you're in the right place, but you're thinking about where you were. Remember the children of Israel left Egypt. And so they went through all the struggles, they go through the wilderness. So the first thing is like, man, we out here in the wilderness, and we ain't got nothing to eat. At least back in Egypt, we have food. So God comes up with a miracle, manna. Something they never seen. That's why they call it manna. It's what is this? Right? Then, man, we ain't got no meat. God pours down quail. Actually, God kind of got a little bothered. He poured down quail to almost stuff them with. Mm-hmm. But even before all that, they get to the Red Sea, they're complaining like, see, God brought us out here to kill us. He went through all those plagues to kill you. Every time they went to a hurdle, they start looking back. Yes. But they needed the faith and the expectancy to pull in what God wanted for that moment. Remember we talked about this week. We talked about things being motion activated. So, my wife was saying how the Lord kept waking her up, and she was waiting for the Lord to move her to get up and to do something. When she was woke, she could have got up and moved the Lord. And we were talking to somebody else this week, and we said, instead of waiting on the Lord to move you want to move yourself, right? So we came up with the example of the motion activated doors. They don't open until you move. So there's a place that has everything you need. You got to take the step and open up the door. And then take the step, and remember Get Smart for the older people? You remember Get Smart? Dun, 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 dun. And you just kept going, and the doors. What? Some of y'all don't remember that? Did they use the same music on the new one? Yeah, there was a new one, a newer one. Yeah, it was a movie. Yeah, but he would just walk through. Like they don't even know. See, look. These people in the 20s like, Get Smart. I got a Netflix dad, I don't even know. Right? But he would just walk through every time.